welcome to CNBC TV18. The top story this evening as we continue to track the Tata versus Mistry battle. Well, TCS shareholders are voting today after the Tata Group called an EGM seeking the ouster of Cyrus Mistry from the board of directors. Now, in a letter today, Cyrus Mistry has requested the shareholders of TCS to vote with their conscience and save the fabric of Tata values. Now, as it's flashing on your screens right now, TCS EGM has just concluded, and right at the venue are my colleagues Ritika Saxena as well as Priya Seth, who have been tracking the development very closely, who are sitting right there at the EGM accounting and giving us blow-by-blow account of what's transpiring inside. Ladies, good to have you on the show. And start with Kritika. What's the update? How have the shareholders, the minority shareholders who have made their speeches, really responded to this particular vote, and how many are expected to go in favor? Of course, the numbers will come out in some time, but in the minority shareholders who have spoken, how has the response been?
Okay, so I'll talk about the minority shareholders a bit, but quickly, Priya, it started in a very interesting way. We actually saw Ishaq Hussain, who has recently been nominated as the chairman of TCS, standing up saying that yes, it's my duty to preside over as the chairman, but he handed over that responsibility to an independent director. Priya?
Absolutely. Aman Mehta, who's been the independent director of TCS, actually took over as far as the proceedings of this EGM are concerned. But what's really interesting at this point in time is that several minority shareholders did speak up, against, the resolution. Actually, the matter on hand was essentially the removal of Cyrus Mistry as the director on a TCS board. But Kritika, mega drama, unfolding with several shareholders. Run us through what really transpired there.
So, the agenda was very basic. Should we vote for the removal of Cyrus Mistry as director on the board of TCS? So, a request was made by Aman Mehta to stick to that agenda. There were several shareholders asking questions about Tata Sons, asking questions about TCS's operational performance, etc. But sticking to this particular agenda, here are the basic questions that were asked. Firstly, out of the 39 shareholders that spoke and asked questions that EGM, only 4 supported Cyrus Mistry. So first, let me talk about the ones that were against Cyrus Mistry. The confusion amongst most shareholders was the fact that they haven't really gotten any information directly to shareholders. What they're hearing as far as what Cyrus Mistry's stance is concerned, what Ratan Tata's stance is concerned, what Tata Sons' stance is concerned, is entirely from the media. And that was one issue that everyone had. As a result of that, they have said that so these are the pro-Tata Sons minority shareholders. These are the
other side of the story as well.
So firstly, to go into the details, here are the top 5 things that viewers need to remember. The questions raised to Cyrus Mistry were: A, why are you not present at the EGM? Is there something that you do not want to tell us? B, why is this a media battle? Why have shareholders not been approached? C, if there are such serious issues, heinous issues, as pointed out by you in some of the areas that you had pointed out, in some of the press notes that had come out, why weren't they revealed to a regulator if things were as bad? 4, why is this being dragged out in such a terrible way? Why can you not step down gracefully? And 5, Tata Sons is something, is a brand. Ratan Tata is a brand in itself, and as a result of that, why can this not be respected? Many shareholders, in fact, many were supporting Cyrus Mistry indirectly, saying that they understand him, but they believe, and this is a comment made by at least 3 shareholders, I was counting, that Cyrus Mistry is being ill-advised. So these are the negatives. And as far as the questions that 4 shareholders had raised to Tata Sons, those were quite serious. They would essentially give us valid reasons as to why Cyrus Mistry is being removed. As far as performance is concerned, shareholders say that if you look at the graph, and these are these 4 shareholders that had spoken at that EGM. Of course, not all the shareholders had spoken. There were only 39. So just to remind our viewers, these are only the comments of the ones that had spoken. What they had said is that why has there been no credible reason given? As far as operation is concerned, they believe that Cyrus Mistry has been performing. What they feel is that if one person, even if there was a mistake made, if there was one person or two senior people, a chairman making a mistake, if at all there was a mistake made, why could this not have been resolved amicably? So the question, and that was the uproar that you were talking about, Priya. You were down, I'm sure you heard that uproar. A shareholder got up and started screaming, why was my chairman removed? Why is there no reason being given? And this is after what Ishaq Hussain had to answer. After the 39 speakers spoke, Aman Mehta, who was the presiding chairman today, he had to answer, and the only point that he had given, guys, was that, and this is something that has been revealed to the media as well, that the reason why Cyrus Mistry was removed was that Tata Sons has lost trust in Cyrus Mistry as chairman. It's a trust deficit, and that's the reason why. And Aman Mehta said this very categorically, that independent directors met separately and decided that it is in the better good of TCS and the company as a whole. He said, let me talk about TCS specifically. I don't want to talk about the other companies. But according to him, and this is what the statement that we have also heard, is that it was a trust deficit.
In fact, Ritika, I was speaking to some minority shareholders as well here, and the issue that they have is with the whole reputation of the brand being tarnished at this point in time. So, maximizing their returns from the shares that they hold is really something that they are looking at this point in time. But with this, it's a sort of reputation that's been damaged at this point. But Kritika, a lot of more EGMs to continue over the next few weeks. So really,
so these are the takeaways that we need to remember. It should be out in the exchanges shortly. I believe about 45 minutes roughly it should be out. Remember, Tata Sons has 73% stake in TCS. LIC has about 3%. HNI is roughly between 6.5%. FPIs have roughly around 17% stake. So as far as TCS is concerned, they had it in the bag already. And that's the reason why Cyrus Mistry sent out a statement saying that it's a foregone conclusion. It was a given that they are going to be able to get this in their favor, and it should be made official on the exchanges shortly, given the fact that they have, and as per norms, they need to have above 50% plus one of the votes that have been cast. And since they have 73%, Tatas, of course, will get this in the bag. But the question is, how will Tata Steel, Indian Hotels, Tata Chemicals, TTSL is tomorrow. How will the shareholders there react? Today, yes, majority of them did seem to support Tata, said that we understand Cyrus Mistry. And the one thing that stands out amongst all minority shareholders is, why did you wash our dirty linen in public? Why could this not have been resolved amicably? So, pro, con, against or not, this was the one thing that all shareholders said, that this, at the end of the day, even if we support Tata Sons, it is something that we are losing out. The board is divided, the company and the promoter group is divided. So, yes, watch out for those EGMs, but if I had to point out one takeaway from the shareholders here, they seem to be supporting the Tata Group and Ratan Tata for now.
Oh, of course, Kritika and Priya, thanks so much for getting us that on-ground report. And you had been seeing all the drama at the TCS EGM today. Of course, questions being raised by some of the minority shareholders. But remember, the 39, minority shareholders who spoke are the retail shareholders. We also have 3% with LIC, some of the FPIs, MFIs, all of them also hold stake. But in this one, Tata Sons really has a cakewalk in removing Cyrus Mistry from the board, because it is because of the sheer majority that the promoters have in this one. 73% stake, 51 is all they require, and with this it is going to be only on Tata Sons side. But what will be important to watch out for definitely is how the minority shareholders, including LIC, really react and cast their votes. Will it be a fall of reputation for Tata Sons? Will it be vindicated in terms of Cyrus Mistry's point of view on corporate governance? Or will all the minority shareholders really back Tatas, is to be seen in this very important EGM. Let's first also get some of the minority shareholders snippets of sound bites that we managed to catch up right outside the TCS EGM today.
हाँ, मैंने बात की, टाटा साहब को सपोर्ट किया है।
और आपको लगता है कि मिस्टर मिस्ट्री को जैसे बाहर निकाला है वैसा अच्छा है टाटा ग्रुप के लिए?
नहीं, टाटा साहब ने खुद ही मिस्त्री जी को अपॉइंट किया था। मैंने ऊपर भी बोला है, टाटा साहब उनके पिता समान थे, उनको खुद ही कह देना चाहिए था कि मैं छोड़ता हूँ कुर्सी। उन्होंने गलत काम किया है ये सब। टाटा साहब बहुत जेंटलमैन आदमी है, उनको बदनाम कर दिया उन्होंने। ऐसा उनको नहीं करना चाहिए था। मैंने तो यहाँ तक कहा अभी ऊपर टाटा साहब को, टाटा साहब कोई गलत काम कभी कर ही नहीं सकते। कभी भी आप पर टाटा साहब कोई मुकाम आए, काश कि मेरी जान आपके काम आए।
और शेयर होल्डर्स के लिए आप कैसे देखते हैं ये?
शेयर होल्डर जी, अगर इसी तरह लड़ाई होती रही तो फिर वैल्यू तो कम हो रही है ना शेयर की। मैंने पूछा साइरस मिस्त्री जी क्यों नहीं आ जाए, मैं उनसे ये पूछना चाहती थी कि अब हम ये शेयर रखें या बेच दें। अगर यही हालत रही तो मार्केट खत्म हो जाएगा।
It's historic. Unfortunately, with a pun, it's degrading, deteriorating the brand Tata, which is bulletproof reliability, bulletproof integrity, and bulletproof honesty for the last 149 years. But the way it has gone about, there have been ousters in the past. If you recall, when Mr. Ratan Tata had taken over, almost not completely, from Mr. JRD, his first task was to bring in a retirement policy at the age of 75, whereby people like Darbari Seth, who spent their lives for that Bombay house, were asked to leave, but they all went away politely. Mr. Mistry is too young. He's an aristocrat as well as an autocrat. The clash is of the culture.
The board of directors had no faith in him. They didn't wanted him. As an honorable man, he should have resigned when there was no faith by the board on him.
All right, so those were the point of views really coming in from the minority shareholders who are really there as part of the TCS EGM today. The EGM has just concluded and we have a whole host of experts joining us on CNBC to get their view on what this particular TCS EGM means and what's the way forward for Tata Mistry fight, which is going to be now fought on the platform of extraordinary general meetings that we are going to see in the next 2 weeks. All right, let me introduce all the guests here in the studio. With me are Sailesh Haribhakti as well as Saurav Majumdar, Sriram Subramanian, all of them gentlemen sitting right here with me in the studio. We also have with us Mr. V.R. Mehta of Sir Dorabji Tata Trust and also Suhas Tuljapurkar joining us as an expert as well. And Mr. Rajan Gupta is also with us. So thanks so much, gentlemen, all of you for joining us on the show. First, let's go across to Mr. V.R. Mehta from Sir Dorabji Tata Trust. Mr. Mehta, of course, TCS EGM is not something which will really show how this fight is going to really pan out over the next few days in most of the 6 listed EGMs that are going to really remove Cyrus Mistry from the boards. But what it could really reflect is the mood of the minority shareholders. Today, 35 out of 39 minority shareholders who are generally retail in nature have really spoken in favor of Tata Sons. Does it give you enough comfort that the minority shareholders are on the side of Tata Sons in this fight with Cyrus Mistry?
Well, I am quite enthused about the response that you got from the 39 shareholders that you randomly picked up and interviewed. I am emphasizing the word randomly because I don't think you had any agenda or any particular bias as such.
Mr. Mehta,
Now,
these were not interviewed by CNBC TV18. These minority shareholders have spoken on the floor of TCS EGM today, and we at CNBC were right there reporting from there, so we have transcripts of what they said. Yes, go on.
Okay, that makes it even better that this is coming from the horse's mouth in each case. And what I would like to emphasize is that I have heard many of these shareholders say that when Mr. Mistry lost the confidence of the Tata Sons board, he should have gracefully gone away. And that is the very important message that is coming through from all these shareholders. And let me tell you that in this case also, what happened was that the board of Tata Sons overwhelmingly voted against Mr. Mistry and voted for his removal from the chairmanship of that company. Now, once that happened, there was no reason for Mr. Mistry to continue as chairman of the operating companies. In fact, I think he was violating his own guidelines, which he framed, governance guidelines, which he framed and issued in 2015, in which it is said that any Tata employee who loses his position as an employee of the Tata Group, then they should relinquish their directorships immediately. Now here also it was the same thing, that Mr. Mistry was executive chairman of Tata Sons. That was as an employee, and when he was removed from that position, he no longer had the status of an employee of Tata Sons or Tata Group.
Right.
And therefore, it followed by his own guidelines that he should have resigned gracefully and walked away. Now, this is not uncommon.
Mr. Mehta,
I'll give you some examples.
Mr. Mehta,
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, sir. You know, the sense that we got from the 39 shareholders who spoke, and 35 there publicly at the EGM speaking in favor of Tata Sons. But I think, you know, disappointment across the board on the manner in which this is played out, the fact that dirty laundry has been washed in public and so on and so forth. But may I ask you, Mr. Mehta, in light of what we've seen today, in light of the shareholder reaction that we've seen today, and TCS, as Cyrus Mistry in his letter just ahead of the EGM pointed out, was a foregone conclusion. Do you expect the similar reaction at other EGMs? Because there you have Cyrus Mistry, there you have Nasli Vadia, who just yesterday has put out a 15-page letter to Tata Steel shareholders, for instance, you know, detailing several factual areas of difference with Ratan Tata specifically, and why shareholders should care about Cyrus Mistry's ouster.
Yes. You see, that's why I mentioned right at the beginning that these shareholders were retail shareholders, and they represent a general swath of population of shareholders of Tata companies. I think many of them are common to the various Tata Group companies, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see the same kind of response from the other companies' retail shareholders as well. So I am quite happy about this result here, and what I am saying is, that's why I am saying that once the Tata Sons board lost their confidence in Mr. Mistry, he should have resigned gracefully. He should have left gracefully.
Sure.
That is what the sentiment is by these retail shareholders, that this should not have been washed in this dirty linen should not have been washed in the public. So it is a reflection.
Sure. I'll come back to you on some of the other issues that were raised there by shareholders on the manner in which, you know, they would like things to progress once a new chairman is put in place. But I'll come back to you in just a second. Let me bring in Mr. Shailesh Haribhakti into this conversation as well. Mr. Haribhakti, thanks very much for joining us. You know, we now await the results as far as the vote is concerned. But TCS, as we pointed out, is a done deal essentially because of the Tata Sons shareholding in TCS. But in light of what you heard today, in light of the fact that Cyrus Mistry didn't show up for the EGM, do you perhaps believe that there may be a review of strategy?
I think a little bit of reality seems to be dawning all round, because there was an overwhelming response by the minority shareholders who wanted to make sure that continuity and group support actually happened. But I don't think that takes away from the fact that many people were sorely disappointed by the way in which this whole thing was played out. It could have been far more amicable. It could have been in a way that would have suited the culture and the history of the Tata Group, which did not happen. But I think TCS is a foregone conclusion, and I think overwhelmingly the vote will be in favor of Mr. Ratan Tata.
Suhas, would you agree there with Shailesh Haribhakti, not on the fact that TCS is a foregone conclusion, because that, as we all know, is, but the manner in which the EGM, the reactions from retail shareholders, of course, we will await to see what the institutions do, but do you believe that this will force, perhaps, a review, a reassessment of strategy in the Mistry camp?
I don't think so. I think the strategy has already probably been fanned out. As all of us know, TCS was a foregone conclusion. However, what one has to look at is the explanatory statement, and that explanatory statement getting revalidated today, amongst others, among the minority shareholders. So the explanatory statement, if you were to kind of step back and look at the explanatory statement, I think it talked about one, loss of confidence at Tata Sons level. The second part of it, which was to me more relevant, is the Tata brand support, which was one of the reasons given in the explanatory statement. And third, which is consequence of the explanatory statement, is to say that, you know, as all shareholders and therefore board of directors of TCSL really kind of supported the removal. So actually, if you go on to look at it, one part is the shareholders and larger part is the stakeholder. So it's getting revalidated in TCS kind of a extraordinary general meeting through the special business could be the first step which proves the point of revalidation. I look at this extraordinary general meeting from that perspective, and it's overwhelming to say that 35 out of 39 minority shareholders who spoke supported it. But I think one issue which needs to be understood is that if this was not done in the manner in which it has been done, in what other manner it could have been done, if one party says, sorry, I'm not going to accept your request of stepping down. It could have been nastier. It could have been uglier than what it is today. I think that is a relative aspect that needs to be borne. There could have been far more loss of market cap if it would have been nastier than this.
Not sure how much nastier it could get, but yes, at this point in time, it's largely been a media battle. We haven't actually seen either side move court. But let me bring in Sriram Subramanian. Sriram, you know, at InGovern, you have, of course, advised shareholders to vote against the resolution moved by the Tatas. What do you make of the developments of the day?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, retail shareholders who were largely present at the EGM, I think their voice counts a little, but it is not decisive. I would watch out for how the results of how the voting pattern is for the institutional shareholders, especially the fact that 17% of institutional shareholding is held by FIIs and 3% of course is held by LIC. So we need to watch that carefully. So if even half of the FIIs are voting against this proposal, that is a huge message. Not just for this EGM, it is a huge message to set right things in future, to set right governance in TCS, in the Tata Group as a whole. So I would take that as a strong message. I think that is the statistic that would be of relevance and of worthwhile to look at later today or tomorrow when the voting results are put out. And Tata Group should take that very seriously.
Absolutely, that will be interesting to watch. But Mr. Gupta, do you believe that we will see institutional support go towards Cyrus Mistry and against Tata Sons, given the fact that the Tatas are the majority promoter? You know, do you believe that institutional investors will take a different line?
See, first of all, I would have to say that you have to differentiate between the psyche or ability of retail investor versus institutional investor. Retail investor, most of the time, they react out of emotions, and as can be seen or heard from the interview of 3 retail investors that you had. Okay. Secondly, it will be very difficult for anyone else to say that how the institutional investors will vote. As you have seen, even people like us are divided, proxy advisories are divided. Couple of us have said yes to the proposal, and Shriram and others have said no to the proposal. The issue here is, first, we do not know what is the reality, whether the governance is bad or not bad. So none of us know what is the situation. So that is why we say that it is good that this is coming out in open. Let there be independent inquiry or investigate inspection, so that what is the truth can come out. And if there is really governance issue, it should be settled in future. Because ultimately, the board, shareholders have to work for the creation of the value for the company. And this way, in uncertainty, the value will be certainly lost.
That is right. Let me go back to Mr. V.R. Mehta. Mr. Mehta, you know, while a majority of the shareholders, the retail shareholders who spoke at the EGM, spoke in support of Ratan Tata and Tata Sons, there were a few who asked some questions. And let me just bring up some of those questions that were raised. One, several of them asked why Cyrus Mistry's removal was necessary for the future success of the Tata Group. Two, the performance, they point out, of Mistry has been strong as far as the group company's balance sheets are concerned. So hence, you know, why the decision of the Tata Sons. And specifically, they asked why single out one person if indeed the decisions were taken unanimously. I don't believe we have a very clear answer from the Tatas on any of these questions, actually, Mr. Mehta.
No, I think the answers are there. Shareholders have sort of spoken. Randomly, they were selected. And there's a clear message that once the Mr. Mistry has lost the confidence of the Tata Sons board, then there cannot be two warring parties, so to say. And in that sense, it was necessary that this route had to be taken. In fact, it is not that the Tata Sons have been doing wonderfully well. The position is that the performance of the companies, except two, has been I mean, something which has been giving a cause of concern.
And I think, I don't want to go down that road, because the Mistry side will say that it's on account of legacy hotspots and so on and so forth. So I think since the 24th of October, performance versus non-performance has been analyzed threadbare on the channel from both perspectives. But if I were to ask you also, Mr. Mehta, to comment on some of the other issues that were raised, and I'll get Saurav to come in on that. Questions raised about Ishaq Hussein's credentials to lead TCS. In fact, some shareholders going to the extent of saying, bring back FC Kohli as an interim chairman.
So what was the question? Sorry, please repeat that. I didn't get it.
No, I'm saying that some shareholders were questioning the credentials of Ishaq Hussain as the chairman of TCS, saying that, why don't you bring back FC Kohli as an interim chairman?
Well, I think this is a matter which has to take into account various factors. I don't know how fit Mr. Kohli is today. He's a very revered person in the Tata Group. But whether he was in a condition to take this job even for a short while. So this is something which really doesn't make any difference whether it is Mr. Kohli or Mr. Ishaq Hussain or anybody else. This is a temporary arrangement. And I think that really does not make any difference to the proceedings of this, the EGM.
Sure. Let me bring in Saurav Mazumdar, the editor of Forbes, who's also with us. Saurav, sum and substance of what you heard today. How do you see this playing out now in the next few EGMs? Forget the shareholding. This we knew was in the bag as far as TCS and Tata Sons was concerned. But on the back of what you heard there, the questions that were asked, the comments that were made, the kind of support that Ratan Tata continues to enjoy despite all the dirty linen that's been washed in public, getting a standing ovation as he entered that auditorium. What did you make of this?
Well, Shireen, I think the stature of Mr. Ratan Tata is certainly not in doubt. What is the issue right here and will probably come up again and again as we go into the other EGMs are the issues raised by Cyrus Mistry and indeed by Tata Sons. And if you look at some of the other issues which have been raised, for instance, the role of the independent directors, for instance, in some of the companies, how, the whole definition of independence. Now, we have, all of us, you in your channel have spoken to experts also who have talked about the fact that there needs to be a clearer definition of the role of independent directors, how they have to be removed, for instance, how they can be removed, and these are questions which are not going to be answered directly at the EGMs, unfortunately. And the whole question of structures, the corporate structure versus the way the governance is going to be panning out. So I think these are questions which remain, and unfortunately they will not be answered at the EGMs. So somewhere we will have to, like Mr. Gupta says, I think there has to be an external look into this whole governance issue. Whichever, both sides have raised questions about governance, and I think the Tata Group being kind of a proxy for India Inc., it's only fair that I think in the interest of shareholders and shareholder value, there's a much deeper look into all of these issues. EGMs are
that's a very valid
issue.
That's a very valid point that you make, and I'll take that point across to Mr. V.R. Mehta as well. But let's go across to our colleague Priya Sheth. She's standing by with some more retail shareholders outside the venue of the EGM. Priya, over to you.
Well, absolutely. The EGM has just concluded, and I have with me some minority shareholders at TCS. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, I wanted to begin with you, ma'am. What have been your major concerns out here, and what side are you really taking?
My name is Mrs. C. Mascarenas. At the outset, this saga wouldn't have happened had Mr. Cyrus on his own resigned when his team of directors, including independent directors, had no faith in him and they voted against him. So he should have taken the step of resigning gracefully, and all this saga would not happen. Our Tata image would not come down. That's what I have to say. No?
So the main concern that you have at this point in time is the image, is it? What is on top of your priority, and what side are you really taking?
See, Tata is itself a big brand, and without Tata brand, you can't imagine any product to market. And minus Tata, there would not have been anything. So, in my opinion, if Cyrus has been told before 3-4 months back by a board of Tata Sons that you step down gracefully and be board of directors of Tata Sons, he should have chosen that, and gracefully he would have been there up till now, and we would have appreciated him, and he would have got the respectability. So that is my opinion. And why to drag Tata family, because they have 149 years past legacy of philanthropy and so generous, every all-round performance. Even if you see capital market performance of all the Tata companies, they are doing very well.
Sir, I wanted to come to you. Do you think the manner in which Cyrus Mistry has been replaced, do you support that sort of, practice? Because, in several of his letters, we've heard him saying that, it's a governance issue that at Tata Sons. But of course, Tata has responded to that. But according to you as a shareholder, how do you view this?
I already told in this speech, you have to settle in. This is a big group, 150 years old Tata Group. Next year is 150 years. You have to settle within a board of directors in a group, and you have to in between you have to take the suggestion from this Anand Mahendra, Kumar Mangalam Birla, Narendra Modi ji, and you can easily settle this your issues.
Well, retail shareholders, they're sharing their angst to some extent on the manner in which this is actually played out between Cyrus Mistry and the Tatas. But Shailesh Haribhakti, going back to the point that Saurav was making, and we're not expecting answers to any of those questions today, or perhaps even during the course of the next few weeks as these EGMs play out. The question of the independence of independent directors, the manner in which independent directors have been removed. Nasli Wadia, in his 15-page letter yesterday, saying that the Tatas have used muscle power to remove independent directors like Wadia, asking shareholders not to allow that to happen. You know, these are going to be questions that the House of Tatas and, as Saurav pointed out, corporate India is going to have to grapple with and address.
Yes, I think one of the discernible trends that I noticed as we saw this whole drama unfold was that independent chairmen are likely to be appointed on each of these boards. And there will be a proper segregation between the role of the chairman and that of the MD CEO. So that is a very positive outcome that I'm beginning to see here. I'm also seeing that the independent directors have indeed acted independently. It doesn't matter whether they voted for one side or the other. It was pure exercise of their fiduciary responsibility which led a certain set of independent directors to vote a particular direction and others to vote exactly the opposite. And I believe the respect for both these sets of independent directors was actually enhanced in the minds of the investing public, because they saw that independence was indeed being exercised fully.
Yes.
And I think that is something that we need to preserve. And I'm sure that the Tata Group will make sure that this gets preserved, because I know that the basic culture is that of compliance, of setting the best practices, of making sure that benchmarks which are global are actually set and practiced.
Suhas, you know, just again taking that point of independent directors forward, and I know that we've had this conversation here on the channel with you. Nasli Wadia, for instance, trying to invoke the spirit of Section 169 in that 15-page letter that he sent out to Tata Steel shareholders. But, you know, your point of view, and how do you see that resonating, for instance, with shareholders of Tata Steel, Tata Motors, specifically institutional shareholders, not just retail shareholders?
Yeah, I think we'll have to look at it from two angles, Shireen. One, of course, in terms of right to information of shareholders, and therefore, as a part of the corporate governance, whether quality of information that is being made available to the shareholders is one of the questions that is being raised today, because of all these questions that the minority shareholders are asking as to whether, what were the cogent reasons, and tell us something more beyond loss of confidence. I think, therefore, in terms of corporate governance principles, the first issue that is coming to the foreground today, and it is no longer remained at the backdrop, is the issue about quality and quantity of information available to the shareholders. Although we have seen allegations and counter allegations in the media, I think the quality of information that the shareholders need to make the right choice is one issue that's coming to the foreground. Coming on the issue of the independent directors, I think I agree with Shailesh Bhai that on both fronts, on the independence of the independent directors and the stand that they have taken today, is something which kind of re-establishes the fact that either through the legislative provisions such as Companies Act or the SEBI listing obligations, or otherwise, the institutional support that's emerging and capacity that's getting built around independent directors is something which is a welcome step. The fact that because of these developments, we're no longer talking too much about shareholders majority and kind of corporate democracy at the shareholders level, which in fact is one which the law recognizes on all fronts. But we are going beyond that today and bringing to the forefront of business discussion about corporate governance is a great thing to happen in a very sordid episode of this nature.
Yes, in a sordid backdrop. Mr. Mehta, I want you to come in on that, but before that, let me just bring in Mr. Gupta as well. Mr. Gupta, you know, one of the specific allegations that's been made during the course of this bitter boardroom battle is that there have been violations of insider trading norms on account of the governance structure with the trusts and Tata Sons and then the operating companies. Now, this was a specific charge that's been made by Cyrus Mistry. It's a specific charge that's been made, for instance, by Nasli Wadia as well, saying that Ratan Tata and Noshir Soodawala continue to have access to information of operating companies even after the new SEBI insider trading guidelines came into effect in 2015. As we look ahead, you know, and we don't know whether the market regulator is going to comment on this in any form or fashion, act on this in any form or fashion, though we understand that Mr. Wadia has sent that missive to the regulator as well. But if you were in the regulator's position today, sir, how would you react to this?
See, I have already written in our report that there has to be an institutional mechanism where the promoter can interact with the board, because it is very much important. Otherwise, what will happen? You have a person who is holding 70% or 80% of the equity, and board is so independent that board has taken decision to spend $10,000 acquisition of whatever $5,000 acquisition or 5,000 crore acquisition, and the major shareholder doesn't know. So the issue is that one is flow of information, objective of it, and utilization of it. As long as the information is not utilized to the adverse of any other shareholder, that means there is no trading or nothing is done by the promoter, then probably this type of information flow will be healthy. Otherwise, what will happen? The promoter will lose direction.
You don't give too much. You don't give too much weight to Cyrus Mistry and Nasli Wadia's allegation on violation of insider trading norms.
I would say at the most it would be a technical violation, because the law at present prohibits any interaction. And I had already raised issue that on what basis Mr. Ratan Tata has called the meeting of all CEOs. He had no business calling meeting of all CEOs after the 24th October episode. So issue is very clear. There is a violation, but how this violation has to be cured, or how the road ahead should be there, because in my opinion, if you want the promoter to be totally alienated from the board, then you will have a situation where the board will be so independent that they may take a decision which will not be in the, and I think even minority shareholder will not like it.
Okay, fair point that you make. Let me take all of this across now to Mr. V.R. Mehta. Mr. Mehta, you've heard what our panelists have had to say on the issues that have been raised by Cyrus Mistry and Nasli Wadia on corporate governance. And some of the comments seem to suggest that perhaps there needs to be an external review of the governance structure. Perhaps time has come for the Tatas to also introspect on the kind of Lakshman Rekhas that you should have between the trust, Tata Sons and operating companies. You know, do you believe that, sordid or not, this is the opportunity now for the Tatas to look ahead and to evolve a new governance structure?
My reaction to this is that this is not a matter exclusively for Tatas to review. This is a general matter where there could be different opinions, and in different situations there will be different conclusions also. The thing that I would like to emphasize is that we cannot have a situation, as has been pointed out by Mr. Gupta also, where the majority shareholder is having no say at all in the governance of the company. It will be a kind of despotism of the minority shareholders then, or the board of directors. So you cannot take away the rights of the majority shareholders altogether. There can be a discussion how best we can preserve both the interests of the minority shareholders as well as look at the reality of the holding of the majority shares. Having said that, I would say that in this case, the shareholder, majority shareholder, the Tata trusts are there. Now, they have an interest in their investment in Tata Sons, and the interest is for carrying on their philanthropic activities. Now, whether it is this majority shareholder or any other shareholder, if we do not have a say, and a say consistent with the shareholding.
The question that is being asked,
just let me finish, please.
The question.
Let me finish, please. You see, if they are not allowed, then how will they exercise control? And in this case, again, I would say that this is a unique case where the Tata trusts have been allowed to hold the shares as an exception, and they don't trade. So there's no question of insider trading, to my mind. So where is the question of insider trading rules being applicable here? They are only watching to protect their interests.
Let me ask you, sir, you know, and this is an issue that has been spoken of by several people on the channel over the past 2 months or so, and that has to do with this business of the trust, which is a charitable philanthropic entity trying to control what is a commercial entity answerable to shareholders. You're answerable to stakeholders, they're answerable to shareholders. The performance metrics and performance parameters perhaps are very different. The strategic vision and objectives are perhaps very different, and perhaps that is what is causing the friction and what has led to the friction, at least in this particular case. And for the first time, you've had an individual who is not common to the trust and Tata Sons.
Yes, but that doesn't mean that we are the majority shareholders, and we are not interfering in their day-to-day business. We are only wanting to know the general direction in which they go. And so in that sense, what is unfair about it? It is absolutely the right of a majority shareholder to look after his interests. And as I said, if we invest in philanthropic activities, and if we are not certain about the proper governance of the assets in which we have invested, then how will we operate? How will we carry forward our operations? So this is a big question. Which is forgotten
it is
often.
a big question, and yes, it is a big question. So let me get our guests to react to that. Shailesh Haribhakti, you heard Mr. Mehta's argument, and that is the argument that's been presented by the Tatas as well. Your quick comments on that, because this is going to continue to be an issue unless it is resolved adequately.
Right. My very considered view on this is that information asymmetry should not be permitted to exist in good capital markets. And the way that governance mechanisms are supposed to operate is that the controlling shareholders have a right to make sure that the constitution of the board, and indeed the leader of the board, which is the chairman, is appropriately selected. Having done that, there is an opportunity at the time of every review through the nomination committee to make sure that the roles which have been assigned to the chairman and to the directors has been fulfilled in an appropriate manner. And in any case, I don't think there has been an accusation from either side that there was an attempt to hide information when it was due to be given. In any case, the disclosure norms and the obligations...
the charge was different, that they were seeking information which perhaps they ought not to have.
Yes, so that's what I'm putting that in terms of the forward-looking way in which governance is meant to operate. That you can't have asymmetry of information. You can't have a certain set of people be in possession of information which only they have. So if, for example, a majority shareholder has that information, it should be available to all shareholders. That is what creates symmetry of information. And the way governance has to work is through nomination committee, through the roles and responsibilities that have been laid down for various people who function and constitute a board. And that's what I think has begun to be respected globally.
Okay. Mr. Subramaniam, your quick take on the way forward?
No, I think there has to be a more clearer structure, and there should be less conflicts of interest between the trustees and the directors on the boards. There has to be a clear terms of reference between the operating companies, Tata Sons, and the trusts. and as Shailesh said, what is the information that is flowing? There is, I sense that people are not sensitized to the fact that it is not just insider trading. It is also possession of UPSI that also matters.
Information,
So it's not just having to trade. It is knowingly or unknowingly possessing information itself becomes a bar here. So I think a lot deeper analysis and a lot deeper structure has to be put in place to assure investors that such an incident will not happen in future. So that is the key. I, as an investor, would be institutional or retail, would be keen to see what measures have Tata Group taken to ensure that such things don't recur in future.
That was very clearly put forward even by retail investors today in the conversations that they had at the EGM in their speeches, that there needs to be clarity on the mechanism that will be put in place so that you avert a situation like this from happening in the future. But Saurav, quickly I wanted to get your point of view. A lot of talk around a possible successor, and I think there was one shareholder who said that the chairman of Tata Sons should be a Tata, and there were of course comments that were made about Noel Tata and how he successfully running two complex businesses. Those were the words, I think, or I'm paraphrasing them, of the shareholder who spoke there. Your quick take.
Well, the names, we all know the names doing the rounds, and of course probably helps to be a Tata in these times. If you were looking at the top job and you want to sort of ensure smooth functioning, I think there is also the issue of continuity and everybody. I think that's where Mr. Cyrus Mistry sort of fell foul. He wasn't a Tata in that sense. But jokes aside, I think what is required for going forward is whoever it is, whether it is Noel Tata or anybody else, an international name from outside or even an insider. What is needed is, I think, like we've all been discussing, clear structures even between the relationship which the Tata Sons chairman will have with the trustees going forward, because I think that was also an issue which needed to be discussed and sort of sorted out. So there has to be a clear, if the same guy is not, and I think it helps if the person who's heading Tata Sons is also on the trusts. I think in this particular case is not a very simple kind of structure. So there are 3 tiers, and I think it helps if there is some commonality of views between the trusts and the Tata Sons. So then whoever he is, he should be on the same page to prevent future skirmishes like this.
Well, at least maybe the change now that we've seen is Venu Srinivasan, who was brought into the board of Tata Sons, is now also a part of Tata Trust.
That's right.
So, there is perhaps already a thinking on the part of the Tatas to rectify this situation or the anomaly that was caused, because Cyrus Mistry had nothing to do in that sense with the trust. Final comments, Mr. Gupta, your anticipation of what we can expect in the next few AGMs, Indian Hotels, Tata Motors, Tata Steel.
See, in the other EGMs situation will be a little different. One, because Mr. Cyrus Mistry will be present there, because that will not be a foregone conclusion. Second, the shareholding of Tata is between 30 to 40% in all other 6 companies. That will be 2. And third, we will have the pattern of voting of institutional investors, including LIC and Indian Mutual Fund and FIIs, for the next meeting. So there will be a total difference from the present EGM. But I would like to say on Mr. Shailesh Bhakti's point of information asymmetry. See, the information asymmetry is built into the system. Whenever there is a promoter-related person present on the board, the promoter shareholder will always have a more information than what other minority shareholder will have. In the present case, what happened? The connection between Tata Sons board and operating company was cut because Mr. Cyrus Mistry, as has been alleged, was not sharing what was happening in the operating companies with the Tata Sons board. Had it been the way it was been operating for last so many years, or has it been happening in all promoter related company, say for example in Birla company or Vedanta and all other things, there is a link. Probably this link failed in this time when Mr. Cyrus Mistry was there, and that is why all this problem arose.
Okay, Suhas, very quickly, questions have been raised about strategic, what Cyrus Mistry and Nasli Vadia say, strategic misadventures on the part of the Tatas, specifically in companies like Tata Steel. There's going to be the issue of impairments, which I'm sure that shareholders will raise. Do you see the tone, tenor, complexion of, for instance, the Tata Steel EGM or the Tata Motors EGM being very different from what we've seen today?
You may have certain minor surprises, but I don't think the kind of result is going to vary a large. However, the discussion around a common sense approach to these disputes and primarily common sense approach to governance coming to the foreground again would be seen predominantly when we look at information asymmetry between information available with the promoters and minority shareholders. When you see the objectives of the trust being slightly different from pure economic gain of other shareholders, therefore, balancing these things out is where I think a common sense approach to the corporate governance and all other norms would be emerging very soon out of this episode.
All right, and Mr. Mehta, I'll leave you with the final say on this program, sir. And I know you've spoken candidly through the course of the last several weeks as you've joined us, but as you sit here today, in light of what you've heard, in light of the developments that have taken place, how would you like to see things progress?
Say that again, last part.
How would you like to see things progress from here, sir?
Well, I hope the shareholders of the other companies also realize that a dichotomy between the holding company and the operating companies is neither good for the holding company nor for the operating companies. And once the Tata Sons board has lost confidence in the chairman, there's only one way, and that is he has to make way for another person. And that is absolutely important. Any dichotomy at that stage will be detrimental to the interests of the whole group. There are no two ways about it. And what I would like to say is that this case of trust cannot be equated to any other corporate situation of shareholders, majority or minority. This is a special dispensation for the Tata Trusts, where they have been allowed to keep the shareholding, but on the condition that they don't trade in it. So they have no interest. And that is why there is an asymmetry between the, in the situation itself. And so you cannot say that they cannot have more information. They will have representatives on the board also. So they will also have information. So I think that position needs to be appreciated.
All right, Mr. Mehta, Shailesh Haribhaktri, J.N. Gupta, Mr. Subramaniam, Saurav, Suhas, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. It's been, well, round two if you count Tata Industries. Tata Industries going in favor of the Tatas as well, and TCS, as we pointed out, is a foregone conclusion. There are several other EGMs that we will need to contend with. But for now, thanks very much for watching, and thanks very much for joining us with your analysis.